Thank you very much, Professor Puskás. And you may allow me just to add something which is particularly dear to me. And I think that is why Professor Puskás was so kind when speaking about me. You know, we've been making a team in all the efforts aimed at the accession of Romania to the European Union. He was the head of the Romanian team for negotiations. I was, in a way or another, the permanent second to him in my capacity as ambassador to the European Union for more than 7 years. Well, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I have to say that it's good to be again here in the Institute of Cultural Diplomacy, and I'm most grateful for the invitation to the Institute, but also to Mark Dolphin. Of course, I'm particularly honored to be here, since as I see that I see not just young students, but also people who have a lot of experience, and I'm absolutely sure that you may have already heard what I may say from what... very young students and young people. Absolutely. Well, I think that everybody would agree with me that you cannot measure youth just by number of years. It's very much more. So, and I see here that there is only young people. There are only young people. And I would add something, you know, there is another particular reason for me to be very much happy to be here today, because that makes me feeling again what I used to be. I had another incarnation before getting back to diplomacy. I was a lecturer and professor at the Romanian Economic University as I was teaching about the international economic relations. You know, and being with students is always not just a challenge, but it's a very reconforting moment, because with students, young people, they are not those who are always keen to be politically correct. They also raise questions and make comments as they think. And that's an important point for somebody who wants to improve his own activity, as in my case. So I'm most grateful that I have this possibility to talk to you. Now, I understood that I have to speak very briefly, because unfortunately in 25 minutes I have to leave. I have another appointment which I cannot miss, about the soft hard power, the role of the European Union and the capability of the European Union and relations between the EU and the United Nations in this respect. Now, of course, there is no need to elaborate on concepts or otherwise. I would simply say that I find it most appropriate to talk about soft, hard power in the Institute of Cultural Diplomacy, because actually, when you talk about this concept, it has to do also with, how to say, academic thinking, with the culture itself. And so it's directly linked between the Institute, which is aimed at helping people understand how culture can be used in order to promote international policy objectives and to promote peace and security through culture and through cultural contacts. Now, I will not elaborate on the definition of the soft power. I think that the best one has been given by Professor Ney from Harvard, who was simply saying that that soft power means the capability of an actor to promote what that actor wants, to attract others to what he wants. I would add, now trying to draw from the EU experience, the capability to make others want what you want. And that's the most important thing. And not through hard instruments of, let's say, promoting an objective or another one. And here I'm coming to the European Union. And when we look into the various actors, global, be they national states or international organizations, in talking about the hard and soft power, of course, that has to be linked directly to the other concept or the other binomial relations, hard and soft security. Then we may realize that among all these actors, perhaps I'm a little bit subjective, but in my opinion, looking into the international arena, the European Union is the one which has the most diverse, let's say, bunch of instruments which would or could enable the European Union to really become a global and central and primary global actor in what is the promotion of security via soft security, soft instruments and soft security instruments. And if we look into the past experience, I think that there are convincing arguments in this respect. As we see Europe as of now, the Europe of 27, 20 years ago, probably nobody would imagine that we may have been so successful to have a EU of 27 via only negotiations, dialogue, and sharing values. The enlargement policy of the European Union, it's one of, I think in history would be named always as one of the most efficient instruments to promote peace and security via peaceful means, not with hard power instruments. That's a point. And if we look also into the newly created, I'd say 2 or 3 years ago, the European neighborhood policy, in a way that's helping in the same way. Now, just to give these examples, and perhaps I'll conclude with a third one without being exhaustive. If we look into the fact that in other parts of the world, there are efforts of the states of those regions to, in a way or another, get inspired from what Europe has been doing to make for themselves similar or something along groupings of states. If we look into Africa, if we look into Asia, ASEAN, if we look into South America, there is an interest, a growing interest from these countries or regions to see how and what and how could one do based upon the experience of the European Union. Of course, mutatis mutandis, because you cannot apply the same given this different conditions. Well, the problem is the following. The European Union has such instruments. But so far, has the European Union been able to make the best and most efficient use of this capability this union has to promote such objectives like, well, strengthening security and peace in the world based upon values? As I said, some of the policies which have been carried out so far do represent a proof in this respect. On the other hand, I think that, and everybody, I think there is a generally shared opinion that still the European Union has, let's say, has not yet been able to assert itself as a global actor so strongly as the capabilities the European Union and the member states would have. And there is need for looking for way and means to make of the European Union not just the greatest, the largest commercial power in the world, not just the grouping, the entity which provides the most quantity of the international assistance, but how to make use of it to promote this, let's say, peace and security based upon the values which you share. And therefrom came the need of reshaping the architecture of the European Union, the Treaty of Lisbon, the setting up of the European External Action Service. And here, and I'll get close to my remarks because I would like to leave room for comments and Q&As. And my question would be, of course, it's too early to call, if I may say so. It's too early to say only after one and a few months here since the entry of the Treaty of Lisbon to judge whether what came out from the Treaty of Lisbon is offering the best premises for the European Union to assert itself to the level of the capabilities as a global actor. I think that so far already one can speak about the need of further improvements. I am not speaking in terms of changing again the treaties because, you know, it's something which should be a little bit, how should I put it, at least raising question marks about only 1.5 years having a treaty to proceed to yeah, it's sensitive and delicate, yeah. But nevertheless, there is a need of that. And there is a need all the more as I observe, it's my personal view, that also, of course, probably because of the current financial and economic crisis, which, well, current has been there for 2.5 years or more, Some countries have been successful, and here in Germany, I think that Germany has been one of the most successful in terms of taking measures so as to get out of the crisis. But nevertheless, as we see how things are dealt with in terms of dealing with the economic and financial crisis, I would say that we unfortunately see a kind of, let's say, tendency towards renationalization of policies. And I hope that that will not happen also in terms of the foreign policy. On the contrary, I hope that the European Union will be able to make use of the newly created architecture, the European External Action Service, to really assert itself as a global actor. But for this, of course, it's first of all need of the service to be fully put in place. It is still, after 1.5 years almost, I mean, all let's say the instruments and the structural, administrative structure of the service are not yet all put in place. And secondly, the European Union has to prove, and I hope that the use will be made of this service, to be, so far, in my opinion at least, as far as international relations are concerned, international events, the EU as an actor has been, in most cases, in my opinion, reactive rather than proactive. And I'm looking for the moment when I would see the High Representative, somebody would say the Foreign Minister of the European Union. I personally would have preferred to have such a name, but since there are sensitivities looking into the tradition and history of some member states, difficult, because it's something which some people would confuse with the idea that everything from what belongs to the foreign policy, if you name somebody in the European Union foreign minister, that means that you lose as a member state the foreign policy dimension, which is not true, but that's it, okay. But what I want to say is that there is really a need for a more assertive, for more proactive and preventive action by the European Union, not just to react and, of course, go where things are happening, crisis, with the money, with the policies and so on, but only after. And with this, I will conclude. Of course, there would have been, if I had more time, I would have been probably entering into more details on these issues, but I'm now waiting for, in the 15 minutes which we have still at our disposal for Q&As, and hopefully I will be able to also answer. I'm not sure that it will be satisfactory to what I'm going to say.
Okay, thank you very much, Ambassador. And we'll enter now a question and answer session.
I think. Your Excellency, thank you for the presentation. I am Naomi Saba from Romania. I'm a PhD student. I would like to ask you, you said that the European Union has all the instruments to be a global actor. And then I would like to ask you, what do you think it's missing to be an active and to have the ability to respond to the challenges of the world? And I would also like to hear your opinion about the fact that do you think that maybe the new tendency in the European Union with the involvement of the European Council, so the member states more and more looking for their own interest, will make more difficult this process for the European Union? So
okay, I've got the point. I would say that, well, I have to be quite careful, because that's the point. Now, on the first question, what misses yet? I think that, first of all, it's linked with the second question. It's still, I would say, there is still need for, let's say, a little bit of thinking, first of all, by everybody who is involved in this process, to think more in depth and to clarify better the fact that by making of the European Union a real and genuine global actor with all the capabilities, it doesn't affect the interests let's say, traditions, some inertia at the level of, at the national level, to put it, let's say, in a euphemistic way. Still, there are among the member states, in the member states, or among some member states, opinions according to which foreign policy is still something which it's the quintessential aspect of national politics. We have to work on that. But it doesn't mean that, for what I've been saying, there are reasons for being pessimistic. Because, you know, it's such a complex process as the European Union is. It takes time, and it takes efforts. Let's remember what Jean Monnet was saying. L'union, on se fait par les faits, hein? Step by step. And it's difficult to get through some, let's say, inertial perceptions. Let's remember, although we are now in, there are people who speculate about the future of the euro and so on. I think it's pure speculation. I'm fully confident that euro would be a strong currency. But don't forget about the fact that the idea of having a EU currency, single currency, has been there for 40 years. Yeah? Nevertheless, it's, and I remember when I was a student myself, in all the papers which I was reading was no future of that. Jean Monnet came up with this. We have reality there now. It is there. And there, in spite of the fact that there are people who contest or something like that, say that, look, let's get out of the euro because of the crisis and so on. No, this is speculation, as I said. I think that we have to look into that also as far as the foreign policy is concerned. Because sooner or later, the time will come when people will realize in Europe that in the global environment where you have emerging actors, strong ones, the only future for Europe is to get united, also in the international arena. And that brings me to the, I would say, symbolistic perhaps yet, a development of recent weeks. It's the EU got, via a UN resolution, and coming to the last part of the UN-EU relations, you know that the European Union got the status more or less similar to the member states in the sense that the EU now has the right to speak directly to the General Assembly as any member state, the representative of the European Union, not just the presidency, the rotating presidency. And also to produce papers, proposals, and so on. It's just a step. It's a small one. But, you know, big objectives sometimes, if not always, start with the implementation with small steps. So, and your second question, in a way I already answered. It's true. It's true that still there is, let's say, kind of orgueil, as the French would say. Pride in asserting, in some member states or actors in the member states, in asserting themselves as key actors. We look into that in various other international fora. For example, I am among those who would say that the European Union is as an entity, has the largest part of the International Monetary Fund special drawing rights. Yeah? And also, if you count them together, they have the strongest voting power. Nevertheless, the fact that they are, each of the member states, still they want to get to be individual, lacks the European Union of the capability to be more assertive. But on the other hand, the fact that the EU now is participating as such via the President of the European Council and the President of the Commission to the G20, G8, and so on, it's another, it's something, it's an evolving process. So I am prudently optimistic, but I remain definitely optimistic on that.
Thank you very much. Another question?
Good morning. My name is Orla. I'm from Ireland. I'm doing an internship here at the ICD. I was just wondering, if soft power measures don't work for the European External Action Service, do you think that it could be problematic that there are neutral countries within the EU should we have to move to like a standing deployment force like our Luxembourg colleague was talking about? Thank you.
No. Ireland is a neutral country. So, and there are others as well. I mean, but you know, I think that there is no contradiction in that. I mean, there is no hindrance because of that for the European Union to be able to act not just with soft power. Well, look, we've been developing in the European Union also a security and defense policy. And don't forget about the fact that the Treaty of Lisbon provides for what is usually called the enhanced cooperation, which leaves room for those member states who want to get into a specific action to get in, others who may not, they are not to get in. So it's the legal framework of the European Union allows for that. So that's why I would not see difficulties. Of course, if you ask me as a person, I would like that all the member states, I mean, join and participate in the implementation of the EU policies once they are agreed upon. But we have to be realistic at the same time. And to see that when we look into the history of the European Union, actually, the big, let's say, steps in the integration of the European Union, or the most important part of them, have been the result. They started as, in a way or another, enhanced cooperation. Schengen didn't start in 17 member states as they are today. It's been 25. Yeah. Same is for the euro, the currency. So it's step by step. But sooner or later it comes. And the Treaty of Lisbon as well leaves the possibility for the member state to join or not a specific, let's say, further step of integration. Equally, for the first time, of course, the Treaty of Lisbon now leaves room for the possibility, if a member state would like to get out of it, to do it. But I'm absolutely sure nobody will do that.
Thank you very much. May we take one more?
Yeah.
Okay.
5 minutes.
Hello, Your Excellency. My name is Oana. I'm from Romania. Thank you for...
We are good with Romanians here in Germany, yeah?
Yes,
Are we?
indeed.
Okay.
Thank you for the presentation. Thank you also to Dr. Constantinescu and to Dr. Pușcaș. And, well, we are talking about the relevancy of the EU and, well, EU is united in diversity. We see the diversity, but I don't really see the unity in it. So, as you were saying, foreign policy is perceived as a domain of the nation state, and we all know about the rising Euroscepticism. And, of course, I think this issue will become a bit more severe now with, for instance, the immigration issue that, you know, it's coming from Mediterranean and Northern Africa. So my question would be, how can EU become a singular voice and a powerful actor if we have this sort of issues within the Union?
Okay, very briefly. And perhaps it's there you will find the reason for optimism. If you look back into again to the development of the European Union, yeah, every time the EU got through or crossed a deep crisis, it did not make steps back. From every crisis so far, the European Union only made steps forward. Look into the 60s years, yeah? Look into the single act, how the European Union and the European communities came to the single act, which created the single market. I remember, I was in Brussels already by that time, during the negotiations for the Treaty of Maastricht. There were still difficulties. And every time, once again, the EU, after the referenda, which took place in 90s, remember that Denmark was not entering into the European Union after the treaty, was not ratifying the Treaty of Maastricht. They needed to. It was happening in the case of Ireland recently with the Treaty of Lisbon. Nevertheless, it moved ahead. So this is why I would say that I'm not that much pessimistic, and I'm pretty sure that things would come up positively from this, in spite of what you see in the media about skepticism and all these type of things. So that's my reaction to your question. The second aspect of your question was?
That was about it, like, how can we overcome
Yeah. And yeah, it's about how we come to a single voice. Well, I think that the best example that we can do that is what's happening in the international trade negotiations. The European Union has been there, a single voice, for a very good number of years, decades. And the European Union in the WTO negotiations has always been the EU which negotiated, and not the member states. And that's perhaps one of the reasons why, when negotiations on international trade take place, the European Union is really considered as the key actor. Just an example. But there are others as well. We can. Enlargement policy. Of course, there were different positions by the member states, whether and when to admit a country and so on. But the enlargement, at the end of the day, was a policy assumed by all the member states of that time when the negotiations, then the enlargement of the European Union took place, the various enlargements. So I'm pretty sure that, but we have to be, in a way, patient. We have some patience. We have to have some patience because, as I said, the integration in the European Union is a very complex process. Actually, it's transfer of powers, transfer of responsibilities, and so on. And you know, it's like in a family. Like in a family. When kids grow, they start pretending something. Their parents may be reluctant. Then they may be convinced that there is no alternative, perhaps because they realize it, perhaps it's against their will, but they have to face realities. I may make a kind of a comparison this here as well, but of course, what is. Okay, last question.
Thank you very much.
Okay. There is still one question.
Are you from Romania?
No, I'm against monopoly. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it is a quick question. So it became a concern for me after yesterday because I was told that it was announced and in the news about the Denmark in regards to EU, they're going to close the borders. They're not completely withdrawing from Schengen, but become more strict with the border area. So how do you think, how would that affect in this interdependent world the rest of the states? Because if you ask me, for example, this free movement of people and goods.
Okay, I got the point. I would simply ask you to read what happened in the European Union in the 60s with the famous la chaise vide, the empty chair. Then there was a total mess in the European communities by that time that everything distracted. No, it came back. You remember that? That would happen here as well. I mean, I'm absolutely sure. And if you see the reactions from what Danish authorities, some ministers would say something, others would say something. Always in the European Union, there is a way for compromise. Okay?
Thank you very much, Ambassador, for this comprehensive and a very optimistic approach.
All the best.